MSNBC's Morning Joe co-host Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, two of Trump's fiercest critics in the media, told their viewers Monday they had a face-to-face meeting last week with the convicted felon at Mar-a-Lago. They said it was an important opportunity for those who disagree to speak with each other.
Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote. Joe and I realize it's time to do something different, and that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
Viewers voiced their disgust on social media, saying the host only met with Trump to avoid being targeted for disagreeing with him. We should also note that Trump was a man who said he knew nothing about Project 2025, for example, but also recently appointed Brendan Carr Chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. He wrote Project 2025's chapter on the FCC. Joy, I bring up that last point because in the work that you do in the spaces that you occupy, I know you're all about coalition building and talking to people who have diverse opinions so you can kind of build something together. But there's a difference between talking with somebody of a different political perspective versus somebody who is an outright liar and platforming him. You know, in the book on tyranny by Tim Snyder, he talks about one of the challenges when a dictator comes into power is that the media acquiesces in advance, that people acquiesce in advance because they're afraid of basically the smoke. Am I off on this? As somebody who's out there in those streets, as somebody who works to build coalition and talk to people of different opinions, am I missing something here?
No, I found out about this when the team sent it to me that we were going to discuss it today, because I've long since stopped watching cable news because of, one, the 24-hour act as if we can't talk about any other story but these three things that happens on cable news, but also these types of things. And what it read like to me, what just watching what played before me, it seems like this PR campaign that's being instituted. Don't believe anything that you've heard, even if you heard it from directly my mouth. I'm going to be a kinder, gentler, Trump in this administration. And it seems that that is the talking point that a lot of people are running with and are attempting to get in good favor so that they are not shut out. When the bottom line is that people are trying to maintain the eyeballs and therefore maintain their dollars and cents, and making sure that they are not completely shut out from engaging in this administration that would boost their numbers back up since it has been dwindling. So I am not falling for the banana in the tailpipe. I am not falling for the kinder, gentler. I am going to believe a person who stood on stages, who stands before us on a regular basis, whether that's through his social, through his words, through his actions, and tells you exactly who he is. And so he can say all the live long day that he's not familiar with Project 2025, probably because he doesn't read. However, what is clear is that those who came up with it are familiar with him, and they are familiar enough to seek power and be in charge of institutions that they are deliberately wanting to be appointed to in order to destroy. So I would say to folks, and I've said to my membership and I say to others, believe people when they tell you who they are. And out of his own mouth, he has repeatedly told us that. And certainly other people who have clear agendas of dismantling a number of our democratic institutions, they know who he is and know how they can move their agendas forward. And that's what we need to pay attention to, not the PR stunt and the PR campaign, and for other people who are concerned about their own pockets and not the American people.
Yes. And Julian, one of the things I find interesting is that they talk about, and look, in my work, in the work that I do in my DEI spaces, my whole thing is about finding common ground, but it's about people who want to actually find the common ground. When I see these conversations about we need to learn how to talk to each other and so on and so forth, these guys have no interest in talking to us. It's always a matter of us having to go to them. And so when I look at this looks at a situation like it could be the exact same thing. It's like Trump won, everybody come to me now, even though I don't really give a damn about y'all anyway. How do you see this?
First of all, I remember when Mr. Trump said some really ugly things about Mika. She was bleeding from wherever and, just really distasteful things. I don't see how she, with a straight face, could have, and pulling her daddy in there was like lowball. But I don't see how, with a straight face, after someone has denigrated her that way, to go and talk with him, and her husband also going to talk to him. But you know what, what Joy said was correct. People are trying to make sure that they're not cut out of the access. This is predatory capitalism at its best. What do I mean by that? These people want to make sure they're on MSNBC. They want to keep their sponsors. They want to keep their access. They're Washington insiders. They still want to be Washington insiders. Don't be surprised if you don't see them turning up at the White House for some party or some event or something like that, because that's what's going to happen. Basically, they are Areva Martin's husband has a word for it, and I forgot it. I was thinking about it when she was talking. But anyway, it's just about basically, for a better word, star effing. But there's a better word. He had a much better word. Ernest Martin. But anyway, the bottom line is they're scurrying for favor. They don't want to be left out. Scarborough has always been kind of more of a centrist. He's not a progressive. Mika, a little bit more so. But that's not the point. The point is that what you're seeing is a lot of scrambling. I'll call him 47 because I don't want to call his name. We used to call him 45. Reverend Barbara and I used to call him 45. But 47 has said he's going to get revenge. He's going to get revenge. I got a call from a colleague after we did the State of the Black World Conference here in D.C. on Thursday last week. A brilliant job by Dr. Ron Daniels. And I said, of course, what I always say, with a little economic splice in there. And this sister called me and she says, and she's a Republican. She said, you need to be careful. I said, what? She said, they're watching all y'all. You need to be careful. I said, so what would you have me do? She said, I'm your friend. She was actually, I think she was on a Delta line before mine or after, I don't remember. But she's like, they're watching y'all. And I believe that so they're watching us. This is not going to change my ways or my days. But the fact is that he's promised retribution. He's going to get retribution. There are no firewalls between the Congress, the Senate, the court, and him. So given all that, he pretty much can do whatever he wants to do. And if you are pulling down a few mil at MSNBC, and you used to be a congressperson, you were National Security Advisor's daughter, y'all want to stay in the in crowd. And so the way you're going to stay in the in crowd is to kiss behind. And that's what they've been doing. They've been kissing behind. I think it was a horrible, I think just do you, boo. But I don't think it doesn't give me any confidence in them. And I don't know if it gives any other people, their listeners, their viewers, any confidence in them either. Because what they're basically saying, he could talk about me like a dog. He can do this, he can do that. And I'm going to still go to Mar-a-Lago and kiss his behind. So I hope you like the taste of, when you kiss in the behind of someone whose diaper spilled. That's all I have to say.
So, Eljoy, something that you said had me thinking, so many of us are in this kind of, I don't even know how to explain it, this zone where we're so frustrated with the news and so on and so forth. You said that you gave your staff instructions about what they should be doing going forward. So kind of going off of that, what are your instructions in terms of how we should be dealing with situations like this, where we feel like our media networks that some of us may have favored were the face of the resistance or the face of some form of criticism, and they don't seem to do that anymore? We see the Washington Post and the LA Times that decided that they weren't going to endorse a candidate, and people felt like they were falling off as well, and they were acquiescing. What type of advice are you giving to your staff? And in addition to that, what advice would you give for us who are just feeling this sense of hurt by these, what many people are calling betrayals?
Yeah. I think it's important for you to invest your time and your eyeballs into institutions that serve you. And for me, these institutions are entertainment institutions. They are, as Dr. Malveaux said, they are part of the system of predatory capitalism. They are trying to maintain eyeballs in order to maintain ad revenue, in order to increase shareholder revenue. That's what they're for. And so once you understand that, then you can detach yourself from this personal connection that we seem to have built with some of the folks that are reporting quote unquote news. I remember a time, my grandmother, and watching news with my grandmother, she watched a particular channel because she trusted the news from that particular person that, they were giving her facts, they were giving her the information. If someone breaks that trust, right? So you then develop this personal relationship. You feel like this person is delivering the news directly to Eljoy, right? That they're thinking of you as they are putting their stories together and having this conversation. For me, that has been broken. There is, I'm taking my eyeballs, I'm taking my support to institutions that are going to serve me in one way and giving me the pure facts, and giving me news and not heavy on their opinion. Before you give me opinion, tell me what happened first. And we see a lot we've become accustomed to this cable news piece that we're in, where people are just giving you their opinion on things before they actually give you what happened, what the facts are. And so with that, I'm divesting from those institutions and instead investing in local news, in community news, in, NPR and sort of other places that can give me, and I don't want just an echo chamber. Let me, make sure that people understand that, because I read from 36 different sources every morning for my 2 hours in reading news. I read from 36 different sources, some that are more progressive leaning, some that are more conservative leaning, just to understand what is happening all across the country. And I think we don't have to settle for what is being presented. We can make moves by moving our eyeballs and turning the clicker away from these institutions that are really about, the bottom line, and not necessarily about giving us the facts and giving us information so that we can make decisions to support or not support, to protest, to challenge and to engage in our own governance, I would say.
Well, you're talking about shifting those eyeballs, as Reverend Carr says in our commercials. People need to bring their eyeballs home. And it's going to be sad to see so many of these other networks and individuals just acquiesce in advance. But you all know here on the Black Star Network, we're going to keep it real. And so we hope that those eyeballs continue to grow with us as well. As Roland Martin said last week, she started with like 1,500 subscribers or something and reached 1.5 million last week. And we're approaching 2 million. So that's our goal right now. So we hope that many people will follow Joy's advice and bring those eyeballs right over here to the Black Star Network as well. And we're going to be keeping an eye on what's happening at MSNBC as well.
It's great and important advice for any. Well, I would also advise people to look at international news, to look at The Guardian, to go to allafrica.com. I mean, one of the biggest challenges I find is that we have this tunnel vision about the United States, like we're the only place in the world. If we start looking at Africa news, South American news, I think it's really important there. I find, I am a CNN junkie, I'll admit it. But lately, I start to turn that mess off after 30 minutes in the morning. I do my prayer call, then I pray for the fools. And what has happened in my observation with CNN is that too many of the anchors have too many opinions. In other words, this woman was on last week, and somebody brought up the issue, the stupid Republican commercials about trans people. And she said, well, I have 2 little girls, and I'm just worried that some boy on a football field. And I'm like, give me a bloody break. That did not belong in the conversation. So we have to not only be discerning, but get out of the United States. Listen, watch BBC, something else, because when other people look at us, they see how flawed we are. We have had this myth of American exceptionalism, and it was a myth, but it held for any number of reasons. But this Trump nonsense makes it clear that there's nothing exceptional about this country. That when they say make America great again, when was it great? When was it great for Black people? When was it great for poor people? People have to be discerning about, I used to say years ago, there's a reason I don't like white people's sitcoms. Because when I open my door and let those fools in my house, if you look at some of this, no, they couldn't come in my house. So why would I watch them on television? And that's beginning to be the way I feel about some of this news. I watch Simone. I love her. I'll watch Abby sometimes. But basically, this is corporate media on steroids.
Absolutely. And I think that at the end of the day, it just really comes down to what both of you all are saying. We have to figure out a way to get people to enhance critical thinking. And part of critical thinking is diversifying sources. And this is a great opportunity, as some of us are getting so disappointed with these networks and hosts that we respect on many levels, to start to do that right now. This is a great time to do that. So both of y'all gave us powerful advice. The Guardian said that, this is their plan to stand up to Trump over these next 4 years. Are some of these journalist outlets going to do that here? We'll wait to see, because we know what we're going to do right here.
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free to download, free to use, next generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation A crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.